Oh, so it's true, you bought a house? In that case, I'll be moving in with you. The words came through the phone so casually that for a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. My mother-in-law had never asked, she had declared. In the background, I could clearly hear my sister-in-law's suppressed laughter. Did she really think I wouldn't notice? They weren't even trying to hide it. So that's how it is, I thought. They must have heard about the house from Joe, which meant one thing: somewhere along the way, they had already decided they would be part of our new life. But I had never agreed to that. I didn't want to live with my mother-in-law, not now, not ever, and I had always believed Joe felt the same way, so why did they sound so confident? Had Joe said something? Or were they simply assuming that once we owned a bigger house, it automatically became theirs too? The possibility that Joe might be secretly siding with them unsettled me. A thin thread of doubt wrapped around my chest. But if they thought they could pressure me into surrendering my peace, they were mistaken. If manipulation was their strategy, then I would simply play the game better. After everything I had endured in this family, I had already made myself a quiet promise: one day, I would make them regret underestimating me. My name is Kate Thompson. I'm 30 years old and work as a financial analyst at a major corporation. 3 years ago, I married Joe. We don't have children yet, and that's not by accident. Joe and I made that decision together. We both value our careers deeply. We've spent years working late nights, sacrificing weekends, and climbing steadily upward. Our agreement was simple: once our professional lives were stable and secure, we would build a home and then think about children. We wanted to bring a child into certainty, not struggle. And finally, that stability began to take shape. One day, after months of relentless effort, I successfully completed a high-stakes project at work. Shortly after, my promotion was officially confirmed. The salary increase was significant. It didn't just mean more money, it meant security. Joe wasn't promoted, but he received a substantial raise due to his seniority. For the first time, it felt like the right moment. That evening, I brought it up. "Joe, can we talk?" I said gently. We'd both had stable incomes for a while now. I think it might be time to start looking for our own home. There was a pause. "Already?" he replied, but I could hear the excitement he was trying to suppress. "I've actually been thinking about it too," he admitted, "but since I wasn't promoted, I didn't feel confident bringing it up." I smiled. "It's not like only one of us needs to succeed. We're a team. If it makes things easier financially, we can register the house under my name." He blinked in surprise. "Really? You're earning more now?" "If you're okay with that, then yes, let's do it." "Good. Let's start looking at model houses on our next day off." He grinned. "Deal. We shouldn't miss this chance." Moments like that reminded me why I chose him. The following week, we toured several model homes. We talked about open kitchens, home offices, natural light. On weekends, we sketched rough floor plans together and researched layouts online. When we consulted a construction company, they suggested something unexpected. "If you leave everything to us, you'll get a standard result," the representative said, "but if you build a clear vision yourselves, the house will truly feel like yours." So we started imagining it, room by room. Of course, neither of us knew much about architecture. It was slow going. We worked on it between busy schedules, often during short breaks at home. One evening, as we were reviewing notes, the doorbell rang. I assumed it was a package. When I opened the door, my mother-in-law stood there, already stepping forward. "Huh, Mother? What brings you here so suddenly?" She didn't answer. She slipped off her shoes and walked inside as if she owned the place. "I'm here, Joe," she called out. Joe came from the living room, startled. "Mom, what's going on?" "Didn't Kate tell you?" she asked innocently. Joe looked confused. "Tell me what?" "I called her earlier." He glanced at me. Maybe she forgot. His mother sighed dramatically. "Kate may be young, but her memory is already failing." "That's not true, Mom," Joe said firmly. "She works harder than anyone I know. She handles her job in our home. Of course she's busy." His defense warmed me, but I noticed the way his mother's eyes narrowed slightly before she smiled again. "You're such a good son, Joe. Your late father would have been proud." She reached into her handbag and pulled out a colorful brochure. She placed it carefully on the table and flipped it open to a page marked with a sticky note. "Joe," she said sweetly, "I've always wanted to see Niagara Falls. Won't you take me?" Joe and I stared at her. She continued, her voice gaining momentum. You should show some filial devotion. It would make me so happy. Joe ran a hand through his hair. Mom, you can't just spring something like that on me. Oh, come on, you'll take me, won't you? He hesitated. Then, perhaps feeling cornered, he said, well, if we go, you could come too, Mom. I felt my expression freeze. The house, the trip, the assumptions. They weren't asking. They were inserting themselves into our future, step by step. And I was beginning to realize this was only the beginning. I was actually thinking of going with Claire. My mother-in-law continued smoothly, but if Joe wants to come along, I'd be delighted to make it a family trip. Claire, of course. Joe frowned. What are you talking about? Kate's here, and I can't just take time off work. And honestly, wouldn't it be strange for me to pay for a trip for you and Claire? Strange? She let out a light laugh. Not at all. Spending money on family is a beautiful thing, don't you think so, Kate? Her head turned toward me abruptly, eyes sharp despite her smile. The trap had been set. I steadied myself before answering. Using your own money for family isn't wrong, but pressuring someone into it is different. Her smile disappeared. What exactly are you implying? She demanded. Are you saying I'm trying to extort travel money from my own son? I wouldn't put it that harshly, I replied evenly, but the way you said it, it sounded like you expected us to pay. Kate, she gasped dramatically, I had no such intention, yet you're painting me as a villain in front of Joe. I'm deeply hurt. That's not what I meant, I said, though my voice remained firm. You asked for my opinion, I answered honestly. Oh, spare me the excuses. Her expression hardened instantly. Why are you so cold-hearted? You've never liked me, have you? There it was. Every visit followed the same pattern. She would create a scenario that required money, travel, shopping, emergencies, and cloak it in the language of family. Then she and Claire would enjoy themselves while Joe carried the burden. Spending for family sounded noble, but what she practiced was obligation disguised as affection. Before we married, Joe had rarely refused her. After his father died when Joe was still in high school, the household changed. His father had been strict, especially about finances, but once he passed, there was no one to restrain them. The life insurance money disappeared quickly, spending became habitual. Claire only worked part-time, their finances were perpetually unstable, and whenever things became tight, my mother-in-law would appear at our door with a sigh and a story. Life is so hard lately. I just want to relax somewhere. I'm exhausted. And somehow, those sentences always ended in a transfer from Joe's bank account. But something had been changing recently. Since our marriage, Joe had slowly begun to see the pattern. Refusing them wasn't easy for him. He had grown up under his mother's emotional dependence, but he was trying. And this time, he didn't stay silent. Mom, he said firmly, just because you're my mother doesn't mean you can speak badly about Kate. She only answered what you asked. My mother-in-law blinked. Joe, are you taking her side? What do you mean? His voice sharpened slightly. You're the one who's being unreasonable. That's so unfair, she snapped. Kate must have turned you against me. You used to be such a kind son before you married her. That's not true, Joe replied. I'm saying this because I believe it. For a moment, she looked genuinely stunned. She wasn't used to being contradicted. Her lips trembled with restrained anger. She bit her lower lip, grabbed her bag, and stood. Fine, she said coldly before storming out. The door shut harder than necessary. Silence filled the apartment. Joe let out a long breath. Kate. I'm sorry, she always makes things uncomfortable for you. It's okay, I said softly. You stood up for me, that means a lot. He looked relieved. Once we move, I continued carefully, we'll be farther away. Maybe we can keep some distance from now on. He nodded slowly. Honestly, that would be a relief. The house we chose was strategically located, closer to both of our workplaces. Our current apartment was only 5 train stations from his mother's place. The new house would be 3 times farther, with complicated transfers and an indirect route from the station. Even if they tried, it wouldn't be easy to find us. And if we chose not to share the address, they wouldn't. For the first time, I felt hope, not just for a new house, but for a new boundary. 2 months after submitting our custom floor plan, construction began. We visited the site whenever we could, watching our vision slowly take shape. Half a year later, our $500,000 dream home was complete. It stood tall and elegant, everything we had imagined. A house built with our effort, our money, our future. Just a few days before moving, we squeezed time out of our busy schedules to pack. As I folded the last of our belongings into boxes, I couldn't help but think. This house wasn't just a fresh start. It was our escape. And if my mother-in-law thought she could simply step into it the way she stepped into our apartment, she was about to learn otherwise. I was in the middle of packing when my phone rang. Mother-in-law. I sighed, tapped the speaker button, and answered while folding clothes into a box. Hello? Her voice came through unnaturally high and sweet. Kate, when are you moving? You bought a house, right? I want to live with you. For a second, I froze. Live, with us? In the background, I heard Claire's unmistakable giggle. That's great. We can make Kate work for us every day. Mom, that's such a good idea. They weren't even whispering. Did they think I couldn't hear them? So this was their plan: attach themselves to our move and slide into our new life as if it were theirs. I kept my voice neutral. We're moving soon. I gave them the date. That was my mistake. Good, my mother-in-law said briskly. We'll come to your apartment that afternoon, take us in your car, and arrange the movers for our things too. Click. They hung up as if it were already settled. But it wasn't. I had absolutely no intention of taking them anywhere. I turned around to find Joe standing behind me. Joe, you were there? I came to say we should take a break, he said slowly. Was that Mom? Yes, I was just about to talk to you. I crossed my arms. Why did you tell her about the new house? He looked guilty. I didn't mean to. Last time she visited, she saw the floor plan on the table. After that, she kept calling me every day, asking about the number of rooms, the layout. I tried to brush her off, but she wouldn't stop. I'm sorry, Kate. I studied him carefully. You don't plan to live with her, right? Of course not. His jaw tightened. After that phone call, I'm thinking it would be better to cut ties completely. It was the angriest I had ever seen him. He told me how his mother had been obsessed with the house layout, convinced it was large enough for all of us. She had already imagined herself living there. But Joe was firmly on my side. That was all I needed to know. Fine. If they wanted to push, I would push back harder. Moving day arrived. The movers came early in the morning. By the time everything was transported to our new home and arranged inside, it was past 1 in the afternoon. We collapsed onto the couch to rest. That's when we checked our phones. Dozens of missed calls. From her. She called me too, Joe muttered. Right then, my phone rang again. I turned on the speaker and answered. Hello? Kate, where are you? I told you we'd come to the apartment this afternoon. Yes, you did. Well, I've been waiting at home and no movers came. I had to go to your apartment myself. The place is empty. Oh, I said calmly, that's unfortunate. I didn't arrange movers for you. What? That was the agreement. Where is your new house? You really think I'd tell you after what you said on the phone? There was a stunned silence. She had probably assumed that as long as Joe was involved, she could force her way in. She was wrong. I decided it was time to stop being polite. Let me make this clear, I said firmly. Joe and I have no intention of living with you or Claire. From now on, please do not interfere in our lives. What nonsense are you talking about? She snapped. Your opinion doesn't matter. It's up to Joe. At least give me the address. I laughed softly. How would you even get here without it? And just so you know, this house is in my name. I decide who lives here. If you show up uninvited, that's trespassing. I won't hesitate to call the police. Trespassing? How dare you speak that way about your husband's family? Before I could respond, Joe spoke. His voice was ice. Family? He said. The only real family member we had was Dad, and he's gone. Joe, what are you saying? I'm done, he said flatly. After hearing how you talked about Kate, I'm ashamed to be related to you. From now on, my family is Kate. That's it. Joe, don't say such things. Don't contact us again. And with that, he hung up. Then he blocked her number. The silence that followed felt different. Light. Joe, I asked softly, are you really okay? He exhaled deeply. Yeah, I finally see it clearly. She was just using me. I feel relieved. And he truly did. That was how we cut the cord. Without Joe's financial support, their situation quickly changed. Claire's part-time income wasn't enough. My mother-in-law, who had been a housewife for years, had to start working part-time herself. From what we later heard, she struggled. She wasn't used to taking orders. She made mistakes. People didn't like her attitude. But that was no longer our concern. Meanwhile, in our new home, our quiet, distant, carefully chosen home, we finally had peace. No sudden visits. No guilt-tripping phone calls. No financial demands disguised as family love. Just us. I'm endlessly grateful that Joe chose us, chose our future, over toxic obligation. Life will bring new challenges, I'm sure. But as long as we stand on the same side, nothing can shake us. Together, we built this home. And together, we'll protect it.